Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to a new episode of Africa Today, where we get you the latest news and events taking place on the African scene. And we'll start off with our major top stories and reports. The strategic ties between Cairo and Mogadishu were the highlight of a meeting between the two sides on Saturday. During the meeting, Cairo voiced full commitment to providing the necessary support to Somalia at all fronts. More in the following report.
Hamza Abdi Bari, as well as Somali Ambassador to Egypt Ali Abdi Awari, in the presence of Deputy Assistant Minister of Foreign Affairs for Horn of Africa Ambassador Ibrahim Al-Khouli, where a number of files of mutual concern were discussed. During the meeting, Madbouli hailed the deeply rooted strategic relations between Egypt and Mogadishu at various political, security, economic and cultural levels. He further highlighted the recent operationalization of a direct flight route between the two countries and the opening of the Egyptian embassy in Mogadishu, which reflects the strong Egyptian-Somali relationship, as he said. Madbouli also voiced full commitment to providing the necessary support to Somalia at all fronts. He highlighted that both sides are keen to enhance collaboration and facilitate providing necessary funds for commercial and investment activities between the two countries. For his part, the Somali Prime Minister conveyed profound appreciation for Cairo's support to Somalia during the critical time.
Welcome back, and still with our special reports and moving on to China. African leaders descend on, and more in the following report.
While tapping the continent's vast natural resources, including copper, gold, lithium and rare earth minerals. Beijing has said this week's China-Africa Forum will be its largest diplomatic event since the COVID-19 pandemic, with leaders of South Africa, Nigeria, Kenya and other nations confirmed to attend and dozens of delegations expected. Observers say African countries were looking to tap the opportunities in China for growth. China, the world's #2 economy, is Africa's largest trading partner, with bilateral trade hitting $167.8 billion in the first half of this year. Researchers say that Beijing's loans to African nations last year were their highest in 5 years. Top borrowers were Angola, Ethiopia, Egypt, Nigeria and Kenya. But analysts said an economic slowdown in China has made Beijing increasingly reluctant to shell out big sums. China has also resisted offering debt relief, even as some African nations have struggled to repay their loans, in some cases being forced to slash spending on vital public services.
Welcome back, and we're joined over the phone by Mr. Rahman, a journalist and political analyst. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon to you. Hello to you and the dear viewers.
Sir, China has sent hundreds of thousands of workers to Africa to build its mega projects while tapping the continent's vast natural resources. How do you explain China's significant interest in building projects in Africa?
China is one of the nations that are friendly to our nation, the Egyptian nation, since thousands of years. We have a lot and deep connection with the Chinese people, as well as we have strong relations with China since the 50s and the 60s. We have established a strong base of relations since the era of ex-president leader Gamal Abdel Nasser, who has established those relations with China since the era of its leader Mao Zedong. And of course, we are continuing the same level of cooperation at too many levels. We're talking economically, we're talking militarily, we're talking politically, as we are sharing almost the same point views concerning the main issue in the Arabic arena, which is the Palestinian case and the Arabic rights in the occupied land. And of course, we have received in Egypt, as the gate of this continent, lots of investment from China, from businessmen, companies, huge companies from China, and lots of investment has been received in the industrial zone around Suez Canal, and too many projects that are being established in Egypt along the past decade. Also, China has interests in the most the richest source of raw materials and treasure, like uranium, like gold, like cobalt, like copper, like too many raw materials that are essential to industry and industrial operations. We, of course, we share lots of interests with China, and we are yearning to work together in Africa, as Egypt, the leader of this continent, and as China is one of the leaders of let's see the free world.
Sir, Beijing has said this week's China-Africa Forum will be its largest diplomatic event since the COVID-19 pandemic. Now, how do you weigh the importance of the forum?
Well, that forum represents exactly what I'm talking. Egypt is the gate of hope and investment, economy, and work in Africa, and it should be treated that way. China recognized that and realized that Egypt is this gate. So with the cooperation with the Egyptian responsibles and those who are in charge, it can open gates Africa, as well as we can share the same interests with China in mutual understanding, joint projects in Africa that can help a lot our own interests, national security interests in Africa, as well as Egypt is the main guardian of this continent. That goes without saying, and we always should raise to that level. Egypt is the guardian of this country, this continent, and we are protecting always. And we should always protect the national security of this continent, countries, as we recognize that the roots of Egypt lay here in Africa. Mm-hmm. So we are doing our best to protect our own national security in the continent, and protecting and working together to exclude any foreign influence, whether colonizing influence or whatsoever, to work together and for the good of the nations in Africa.
Mm-hmm. Sir, why are African countries looking to tap the opportunities in China for growth, as reported by analysts?
We have achieved a lot. We need more. We are seeking more, and we should reach a higher level of cooperation. In the beginning, we were going so strong with the Chinese interests. Today, we need more. We need to start or to launch a new phase of cooperation, as we can open. As we have changed most of the laws of the investment, so we can make it easy for the investor, the foreign investor, to come and to work together. Especially that China has this vision that we truly need here in Egypt, which is the industrial vision, the industrial mentality, and that's exactly what we need right now in Egypt. We need to strengthen our basis of industry, because this is the only base that this country can live up its head and stand tall among nations. With this cooperation based on industrial level, we can work for both sides' best interests.
Great. Sir, China, the world's #2 economy, is the Africa's largest trading partner, with bilateral trade hitting $167.8 billion in the first half of this year, according to Chinese state media. How do you read the number?
The number expresses strong and deep existence for China in Africa. And I believe for this number to be raised, but in common, in working together with Egypt and using our own bilateral relations and our historical relations to work together to find what's really good for this continent to work upon. This continent needs foreign investments, but with those type of investments that doesn't go against its own solidarity. So we should have that common vision together for the lines, for the highlights and the main lines for the kind of projects that should be cultivated in Africa.
Mr. Abdurrahman, Beijing's loans to African nations last year were the highest in 5 years. How do you explain that?
Well, that explains exactly what I'm talking about. We have this one of the most important relations as Egypt, as Africa, with China, and we need more. And of course, we can build upon this for the near future, God willing. We all recognize that China is a main and an important and strong friend we can rely on for too many steps to go together, and we can take this mutual understanding to lead our cooperation into a wider horizon of cooperation and the good for our nations in Egypt and in Africa and in China.
Mm-hmm. Analysts say economic slowdown in China has made Beijing increasingly reluctant to shell out big sums. Now, how would you list reasons for the economic slowdown in China?
Well, that's because of the international crisis, of course. The world is going through an international and economical crisis. That goes without saying. All the reports are telling that truth. Because this world economy is turning around like planets around the sun, around the dollar. So the dollar is going down. That's why the whole international economy is going down. And that's why both Egypt and China are one of the main nations that should let down the currency and its independence economically by working together against the dollar domination, against the manipulation of the dollar countries. That's why we can build a stronger basis. Because besides, when a country like Egypt or China faces such crisis, always we have a last resort, which is our own raw materials, our own treasures, our own gold mines of those raw materials that can expand our capabilities, and to build upon those capabilities, and with those capabilities, a stronger economy to face the international, and not to be an easy leaf of tree in the storm.
Well, I would like to thank you so much, Mr. Amr Abdurrahman, journalist and political analyst. Many thanks for your insights, sir. And dear viewers, now we move on to our special reports. UNICEF has issued an emergency tender to secure Mpox vaccines to countries in need of the jabs. The tender is being issued in collaboration with the Gavi Vaccine Alliance, Africa CDC, and the World Health Organization.
The UN Children's Fund, UNICEF, has issued an emergency tender to secure Mpox vaccines for crisis-hit countries in collaboration with the Gavi Vaccine Alliance, Africa CDC, and the World Health Organization. The organization said in a joint statement on Saturday that depending on the production capacity of manufacturers, agreements for up to 12 million doses through 2025 can be made. The statement said that under the tender, UNICEF will set up conditional supply agreements with vaccine manufacturers. This will enable UNICEF to purchase and ship vaccines without delay once financing, demand, readiness and regulatory requirements are confirmed. The collaboration, which would also include working with the Vaccine Alliance and the Pan-American Health Organization as well as with Gavi, the Africa Centers for Disease Control and Prevention and WHO, would facilitate donations of vaccines from existing stockpiles in high-income countries. The statement added that WHO is reviewing information submitted by manufacturers on August 23 and expects to complete a review for an emergency use listing by mid-September. Earlier in August, WHO declared Mpox a global public health emergency following an outbreak of the virus infection in the Democratic Republic of the Congo that spread to neighboring countries. More than 18,000 suspected cases of Mpox have been reported in Congo so far this year, with 629 deaths, while over 150 cases have been confirmed in Burundi.
Well, dear viewers, that wraps up this edition of Africa Today. Many thanks for watching and stay tuned for more coming up here on Nile TV International.